I grew up in church, but the whole message of Christ and salvation didn't really click with me till I was in high school. I started reading the Bible to impress a girl. She ended up with somebody else, but the Bible stayed with me.
My parents were both Christians, but my mom accepted Christ when I was 3 years old through an Aglow program. I remember her offering to pray with me to let Jesus into my heart when I was 3 years old, and I told her I was going to wait and play for a little while and think about it. And I went to my room and played for about 5 minutes and then came out and told Mom I wanted Jesus in my heart. I remember a couple years later I was concerned that I wasn't a Christian. I told Mom I didn't think I was a Christian anymore because I didn't feel like one. And she just sat me down and she said, "We're not Christians just because we feel like it. Because when we let Jesus in our heart, He's there to stay no matter what you feel." I really felt like God led me into missions when I was just a teenager. I really liked other languages, other cultures. I liked science. I liked people. I liked telling people about Jesus. And I thought, man, if you put all those things together, I should be a medical missionary in a third world country. And that was it.
Yeah.
So I just started studying along those lines. And then when Tim and I met, I heard that he was interested in missions and had been on a missions trip. And so I wanted to find out more about that because I just didn't want to date anybody that wasn't also interested.
Me too.
I was a little concerned. I was like, well, God, I know you've called me into missions. I became a doctor so that I could be available anywhere, but what are you going to do with the DJ? So
Not much.
When we found HCJB, and the only things that they do are radio, and then they added medicine like 15 years into their history. And that's the only things that they've done for like the last 60 years. It was just really amazing. I couldn't believe God was working like that.
Living in Quito, we'll be at 9,300 feet. Surrounded by, I think, 3 volcanoes. A lot of the volcanoes are still active, so it's going to be a cool place to see all the time.
Quito is a city of 2 million people. It actually has the same cost of living as Fort Wayne, which sounds great till you get in there. I mean, in Quito, it's wonderful. And then surrounding Quito is a shanty town because still the average income in Quito is only $10 a day. So it's just surrounded by this great poverty that's immigrated in from the countryside. And these shanty towns, they just don't have running water, electricity, or anything. Their medical ministry, they call the Hands of Jesus Christ, and their radio ministry, they call the Voice of Jesus Christ. So they use the two of them together, the radio to speak about God and medicine to show people and demonstrate the love of Christ. And they've got an extensive medical ministry there. They have a hospital that's been around for 60 years. It's a lot like our St. Joe Hospital, very nicely equipped. Something that's very unusual for a third world country. They are able to accept all the patients that come into the hospital and not turn them away.
With HCJB Global, I'm going to be doing what's called radio teaching. What they do is they'll have, for example, a church will write them and want to start a radio station for their city. And the mission will help them get the equipment they need, they'll help them get the transmitter and the gear. So these stations are going to be able to communicate felt needs that are in their community, whether it be a medical clinic, whether it be just how to take care of community health projects and things that they'll need to know. These are great places for new Christians who listen to the radio, have a place to get plugged in and live like Christians so they can have a place, an outlet to be able to share their faith with people.
I just love being a doctor. I love just having knowledge that people need that helps them get better, that treats them with dignity, and being at the free clinic, like finally being able to give somebody free care when they've had no care for so long, and just being able to love on them while they come into the clinic and say, you know, we are just going to do everything that we can to help you because God loves you. I love medicine. I feel like I'm doing what God's called me to do, and I feel like Chariots of Fire, and He's like, God made me fast, and when I run, I sense His pleasure. And I feel like God made me a doctor, and when I practice medicine, I sense His pleasure in that. And I know He ministers to people through that.
We've had to think pretty long and hard and pray a lot about taking our kids from here and going to a new place and all of the issues that come with that. I think it's a bigger deal for me to leave than I think it is. And I know it's a big deal for my family because we've got grandkids, and I know I'm going to miss my parents, and they're going to miss the kids a ton. But we're going to have a life just the way you do. You know, we're going to have a regular life. And so I don't want to make it sound like what we do is more important than what anybody else does, because God can use you at any time, and your position in life is just as worthy as anybody else's in His eyes.
There's certainly been a lot of prayer that we've had and a lot of drawing close to God and trusting God in the middle of it. And it's been really special, especially like some of the fears that I've had about going overseas and taking the kids. And just one day when I did have a chance to sit and really pray about it, and God just answered that powerfully for me. Over a couple of days, just revealed how much He wanted to be trustworthy in my life, how much He wanted me to trust Him, more than I thought I was able to do. But how just as a friend, He was like, a friend is just like, you can't trust me. What do you mean you couldn't trust me as a friend? And it's like, I've done all these things for you. And He just started listing off like all the stuff that He'd done for me and that He'd just done to create the world, and then things specific in my life that He'd done. He's like, just passionately wanting me to trust Him with the things that are coming up next. And those times have been so special, and just being able to step out of what we knew and into something that we don't know and we don't see. And I mean, honestly, none of us know what comes up tomorrow, but knowing that we've deliberately stepped out of something that was very comfortable into something that's unknown and exciting, but learning how to trust Him in the middle of it.